Yeah, y'all gonna stop coming in my live talking about this Victor dude, bro. We hooping this year. Y'all gonna see.
Alright, team, let's talk about it. So the Spurs lose in a pretty entertaining game against OKC, and for the most part, I enjoyed this game, which I can't say that for every game. In the end, OKC is just the better team right now, so of course they're going to pull away with this win. However, there are some tweaks that I think can be made to make the team perform a little bit more competitively, and that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into this box score and see what kind of happened, what went wrong. So starting off, in the first half, the Spurs were shooting the heck out the ball. I think it was like a record for most 3.5 by the Spurs. And then the second half, they didn't make a three. I'm pretty sure in the third quarter, they did not hit a single three, although they kept it close in the third quarter, which I'm proud of the Spurs for that. But it's just crazy to see how you go from a record-breaking performance to not hitting any threes at all. But what I liked watching this game is it seemed like they made an emphasis to get downhill. Like, look at Devin Vassell. He didn't shoot that bad, 7 for 16, but 1 for 7 from 3. So he was driving downhill a majority of the game. He made the conscious effort to get downhill and attack the rim, and it went good for the most part. I mean, of course, there can be some efficiency issues right here when you look at 1 for 7, but I think those shots will eventually fall. I think that'll kind of get him going in the future, and we're going to see some of these shots fall. So better performances ahead, but not too bad. I'm not angry at it. Harrison Barnes has been shooting the ball really good. I think all of his threes came in the first quarter, though. Like I said, record-breaking first half and then none in the second half. De'Aaron Fox, he has been struggling since he became a Spur. I mean, if these are bad games for him, I mean, I don't mind it. 2 for 8 from 3 is something that I don't think he's going to be shooting on a consistent basis. This is just a shooting slump. As to be expected, you know, he went through a whole trade and this is a whole new scenario for him. He's going to have to learn his spots on this team and how he can get it in the flow of the game. Something that I don't think is helping is him having to play next to Chris Paul. They don't mesh well. You have Chris Paul who likes to slow the game down. You got De'Aaron Fox who likes to take off with the ball. And right now they're just contrasting play styles and it just doesn't work well. I don't know why we haven't switched up this starting lineup, but hey, if we're tanking, then I guess it really doesn't matter, right? Speaking on this starting lineup, just go ahead and take a look at this plus minus. I know that doesn't account for everything, but just take it for what it is. I don't know why we're still running this lineup. Stephon Castle had a great game. This was one of my favorite games to watch from him all season. He had an ankle breaker, he had crazy layups, he had dunks, and he was shooting good from 3. 10 attempts is kind of crazy for Stephon Castle, but if he's shooting 40%, then hey, of course he still has those rookie mistakes, but at this point, that's just something we're going to have to let him play through, and of course it will be fine-tuned in the offseason or whenever he gets that experience. This won't be a forever thing. He just sometimes has some mental lapses and does some pretty dumb stuff, as every rookie does, as you can see here with the 4 turnovers, but he can do it all. He really reminds me of like a baby Kawhi. Obviously they have their differences, but I think he can do everything on the court. He was guarding their best player, he was shooting the ball, he was getting downhill, he was playmaking, so he's really the entire package. As for everyone else, I mean, I've been pretty impressed with Keldon's play style, and it's not just a scoring the ball thing because he only had 7 points here. I think he's just made a shift in his mindset, and he's been more open to passing the ball and really buying into the Spurs way. He's not just putting his head down. If he gets 2 feet in the paint, typically he would just lay it up, but now we can see some bounce passes to cutters and things like that. So I've been really impressed with Keldon Johnson in that aspect. Jeremy Sohan, I think he needs more minutes, man. 24 and 17 points in 24 minutes, along with the lockdown defense he's playing. I mean, he had 3 turnovers, but I just don't think you can be giving Chris Paul more minutes than Jeremy Sohan and Keldon Johnson. That's my biggest thing. I think Chris Paul has been playing a little bit too many minutes. He just has to buy into a new role. Obviously, this is a new team. Whenever you add De'Aaron Fox, we don't need as much as we did from Chris Paul in the first half of the season. I think now he just needs to come in and be that calming factor and backup point guard to lead the second unit, which I'm sure it's not going to happen because that would have been changed already. So I just don't understand playing Chris Paul heavy minutes. You know, he's a 40-year-old man, which I don't have anything against him, but his defense out there is pretty terrible. He has that LeBron defense before they traded for Luka. Whenever LeBron would just let people fly past him or get the open threes or whatever, and he don't really care. I mean, I understand it. He's 40, but Mitch putting him out there at the end of the game whenever they were down by like 10 or whatever was pretty insane. Like, you cannot put Chris Paul out there when he's just being hunted on defense. For perspective, shout out to Eric for the post. Spurs were down 117 to 109 when CP entered the game with Fox and Steph and went ultra small. OKC went on a 23-11 run in the last 5:40 to go. Now this is what I'm talking about. I understand that the Spurs were probably going to lose this game regardless, but just to give your team the best shot and to be the most competitive that you can, I don't think you put Chris Paul in this instance. Like, you're down less than 10, you're down by 8 points, and you need defense. No defense was being played this entire game, and down in the stretch when you really need some stops, you go ahead and sub in Chris Paul. Now, Chris Paul in this game, he was just being hunted. Every time Chris Paul was guarding someone, they called their man up to get him switched on in that pick and roll, and Chris Paul couldn't do anything about it. He would just let him fly past him. And then you don't have a big man on top of that at the rim. And I think that's where Wemby would compensate for him in the beginning of the season, where he'd come up with these nasty blocks and Chris Paul would be calling him over like, hey, Vic, get that. But we don't have a big man anymore. So having him out there is just doing a disservice to the team because he really can't stay in front of everyone. Again, that's not a shot to Chris Paul because he is 40. I'm just pointing out what I'm seeing. And I think he still has a spot on this team, just not in this big role that the Spurs have him in right now. I think off the bench would be way better to Chris Paul and the team. But hey, I don't know if we're going to change it because we're in that soft tank or whatever. But shout out to Kendrick Perkins. This game was on national TV, so everyone got to see Stephon Castle put on a show. And Kendrick Perkins dropped this tweet. The Spurs definitely got them one in Stephon Castle, and I think that's completely correct. Post-trade deadline, Steph Castle has shown you why the Spurs did not want to trade him at all. The sky's the limit for Castle, and in this game specifically, he showed what he can do, and that's everything on the court. Like I said, he was guarding the opposing team's best player as well as getting you 30. That's some Wemby type stuff. Not saying he's going to do this every game, but just the flashes that he's showing are very impressive for a rookie. Chris Paul and the team. But hey, at this point in time, Stephon Castle is the rookie of the year. But if he could keep these performances going, he's going to win it, and Spurs are getting back-to-back rookie of the year. And I think at this point, if the Spurs are being serious and actually trying to win games, which I'm sure they're not, this soft tank is probably a real thing, you gotta have Stephon Castle or Sohan in the lineup, a point of attack defender. That starting lineup has no defense. The OKC Thunder didn't even miss a 3-pointer till like 5 minutes after the tip. I'm not even sure when was the first time they missed a shot. They started like 5 for 6 or something like that, which is pretty insane. There has to be some more defense in that lineup. But before we get out of here, let's go ahead and see what our GOAT, our favorite coach, Mitch Johnson, has to say about the game. Let's not waste too much time and let's just jump straight into it.
A lot to unravel in this game, but I guess a starting point, though, is to ask what you thought of Steph's game.
Yeah, I think he was aggressive. I thought he tried to influence the game in a lot of aspects. He's been challenged to rebound. He had 8 of them tonight, 4 offensively. He had 7 free throws, and he's aggressive in a lot of aspects, which is what we want to see from him.
On the flip side, down the stretch, what did you see go wrong defensively?
I think we had a little bit of we let our dopper down just a little bit in terms of some of the resistance and the transition, some of the crowds. And not an excuse, but those guys have put together a heck of an effort in the last 2 nights. Lost Julian, we were a man down.
Mitch, CP was being hunted out there. What'd you see that you just wanted him to be a point of attack defender?
I rode Fox and Steph pretty hard there in the second half. Maybe I could have got those guys out and got them a quick break. But they did a good job. They're relentless at attacking the paint. SGA and Jalen Williams, those guys, too, had a monster in terms of, imposing themselves and getting into that paint. Thought we did a good job at parts of the game making them see crowds and finding other people early. But they did do a good job as well of imposing their will in that regard.
Mitch, you said they were attacking the paint. Why didn't you sub in Bismack Biyombo instead of going ultra small with Chris Paul and 3-point guards out there in that lineup? I will say he said that they want to see Stephon Castle being aggressive, and him playing 31 minutes is something I commend. If he wasn't playing that many minutes, I probably would have said something about it. So I'm going to commend Mitch Johnson for that and give him his flowers for playing Stephon Castle. But that lineup at the end of the game with the 3-point guards, soft tank, man.
Speaking of Julian getting tossed, what did you see on that? Did you see the replay, and what did you think of that?
And it happens so much now in our game. I don't know. It feels like the rule has changed maybe. But when people are aggressive, there's a lot of these incidental elbows or contact. I don't really know who's at fault, to be honest. But it just looked like that was what initiated it, and then there was some response on both ends. I didn't think much of it, and then people were just protecting their guys and whatnot. But I didn't think it was anything intentional, and I didn't look.
That dude was all up on Champagne, and he was trying to get some space. I'm sure he didn't elbow him on purpose, but then dude got triggered and started pressing up on Champagne. But they ain't know about Champagne. He was squaring up, ready to, you know what I'm saying? So, hey, they might want to stop playing with my boy. And if you're going to be playing up-close personal defense like that, you might not want to be angry if you catch an elbow. Like, that happens a lot of the time.
Look at the scrum to see if they should have got thrown out or not. But the initial basketball play I did see, and just looked like Kendrick Williams was being aggressive, and Julian was opening up. And I don't know if that's an offensive foul now. I don't know where that line is of what space you're allowed. So
It's really
his ear is really red. What, man? What?
tough stretch that you guys have been in for the past couple of weeks. The way games are getting away at the end, does that remind you at all to the way they did during your tough stretches last year? And is there any common thread between those, or do you see it as a completely different situation?
I don't think tonight felt like that as much of. I think we got wore down by a very, very good team. Second night of a back-to-back last night was hard fought. Like I said, a couple of those guys had very long stints in that fourth quarter or late in the third quarter. Julian went down. We were man down. I think there was a level also of Jeremy was actually out for a second to get looked at. I thought they fought their butts off. Again, OKC's probably saying the same thing about us. They made a lot of shots. We made a lot of shots. And at some point, we stopped scoring a little bit, and they kind of maintained it. And then I think that's where, you have to put your energy in getting the stops and getting the rebounds and not turning the ball over and not the makes. The makes and misses come and go. That other stuff is what compound runs.
Getting worn down, did that contribute to the, not being able to keep it up from three-point range? You went from 16 to 2.
Yeah, I think it's all what happened first, the chicken or the egg, right? OKC gets credit. I think they picked up their defensive intensity, and I think we did a good job. I still thought we got some good shots in that second half, even early in the third quarter. That third quarter is probably the most frustrating part. That's been a thing for us now, where we come out at halftime, whether we're up or even, and teams are scoring consistently, and we got to find a way there. And even when they're not scoring, we may give up a rebound or two. And so that's just, again, when you put in so much work and then you give it back in a short amount of time, that's the stuff I think that we got to nip in the butt. And to your question earlier, Mike, that's the stuff we don't want to sustain that we had in that little bit of a stretch previously.
And that's something I like. I don't know if Mitch made it an emphasis, but whenever they were missing threes, they just started attacking downhill. You saw it with everyone. Even when Devin Vassell got blocked on that poster attempt, they were just attacking relentlessly. And I think there was some good in that. And I think that kept us in the game at times, because when that jump shot's not falling, sometimes they just keep shooting it. But this time, attack downhill, and some good actually came out of it. And the problem with this game was the defense. You got to get a little bit more stops, and maybe some of that has to do with the lineup and not having a point of attack defender and kind of getting off on the wrong foot. But hey, who knows?
You've deployed and used De'Aaron since he's been here, I guess, especially since Victor has been out. Is that how you foresee using him the rest of these next 6-7 weeks, or is that kind of evolve during that time?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of evolution here, obviously, and we've done some different things with him, even in terms of sometimes he's playing 2 longer stints, sometimes he's playing 3. We've played him, I think, more with certain combinations as of late than early on. And we just got him. We had our first practice 2 days ago with him. This is his first home game, so to think that there wouldn't be a ton of evolution would be silly on our part.
Even during the rest of the season, you can see that, or you expect to see that change?
Yeah, I think with us, we have an identity and a style of play that we're trying to grow, and we've been trying to grow. When you add a player of that caliber, to think that that's not going to take time, right? You look at any of these top teams around the league, there's continuity is a big word that doesn't get discussed enough, and that's something that we are early in the stages for different reasons in the earliest stage with him. But there's some exciting potential to see on the way.
What exactly is the style of play? I'm not even trying to be passive aggressive with this. I'm actually wondering, because with Chris Paul and Fox, it doesn't mesh well. They don't have good play styles to play off of each other. It just looks nasty out there. If y'all could kind of see where the Spurs are going with this, y'all let me know. That's pretty much all I got for y'all. Y'all be sure to leave a like, comment down below. What went wrong? What do y'all see? What's up with this starting lineup? Anything. With that being said, y'all be sure to subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.